Greetings and salutations and welcome to Ref the District, episode 202. It is a bye week for the Washington Commanders, but we don't take time off. Don't add us around Christmas time, though. We might be taking that week off. We haven't quite figured that one out. It is going to be a Wednesday Christmas this season. So we are contemplating exactly how Ref the District's going to handle that. But that's future Ref the District problems. That's not current Ref the District problems. In fact, we don't really got any problems because we're feeling good today. And we're going to go over all the reasons why we're feeling good. Of course, that's feeling good about the future and how the rest of the season's going to go. That's feeling good about how the season has gone to date. Now, granted, a lot of that happens to be because Washington did win its last game. We might not be feeling as good, but that doesn't matter. We beat Tennessee. That's what we're supposed to do. We're going to the bye week with a victory. We can come out of the bye week with a victory because we're feeling good. And then I'm going to even be so bold to talk about how we're feeling good about all these draft whiffs when we get to it here in the warm-up. Not a whole lot of good pickings from Ron Rivera's drafting, nor from his free agency. And we'll be talking about how that has impacted the team. And I will try to convince you, much like Stoner the week before was trying to convince you that we were frauds, I'm going to try to convince you that it's actually a good thing that Ron Rivera was so bad at drafting and so bad at free agency. Now, maybe you wouldn't have put money on that before, but that's probably because you're headed over to Bet Online, the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds on everything, football, NBA, college basketball, NHL, and UFC, head on over to BetOnline. And don't forget to use the promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV. It's back for your welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here. Emmanuel Forbes was released from the team. Phidarian Mathis was a healthy scratch. This, of course, is after earlier this season, Jamin Davis was released and Washington had traded away Jahan Dotson. Last year, it was trading away Montez Sweat and Chase Young. It doesn't seem like there's much meat on the bones when it comes to what was here before to what is here now for Adam Peters. Now, Trev, we've talked extensively about the 60% turnover, and that is a large number. And we know that that is a large number. But then when you break it down and you talk about the lack of draft picks that have stayed here from the last 4 years, 5 years, even going back to Terry McLaurin time, who I believe he is the only player from his draft still around from that particular draft. Why is it that? Why does it feel different? We knew 60% was the turnover. Why does it feel different when we're seeing the names Emmanuel Forbes and Jamin Davis leave, Jahan Dotson traded, and Phidarian Mathis, who currently is trying to run around the FedEx practice facility or over at Landover Redskins Park, or whatever they call it over there in Ashburn. He is hiding from Adam Peters right now because he knows what's coming, because it's only a matter of time. Mm-hmm. So why does it feel different when we talk about 60% turnover to why it's different when we're talking about these draft picks?
Well, I think that has a lot to do with the new regime, coaching staff, front office, the message they gave us to fans of what they want to do with this organization. Dan Quinn preached about recalibration. Adam Peters and Dan Quinn and Joe Witter talking about a fast, physical, violent team on offense and defense. Rivera was in charge of that. He was trying to build a culture, but he never really put out the kind of culture to the fans of what he was trying to do when he got that job. I felt like he drafted players based on his needs personally of what he thought would be good for the team, and no matter what other, like, his coordinators thought or the GM or anything like that, it was just him. But with Adam Peters and Dan Quinn, they got together in the offseason. agreed on what they want to do with the organization, and brought that here, which is a definite culture, and then picked free agents accordingly that would fit that said culture. We went, I think, and Ron Rivera is the only one that really had the most success, which is crazy to hear, I think, is Chase Young. Because he won Rookie of the Year under Ron Rivera. And that pick at the time was a needed pick for the team. It was a big name. We got the number 2 pick. Let's not mess it up. And at the time, we thought we didn't because we got the Predator from Ohio State. He came in and proved why he was a Predator his rookie year, hence winning the award. And second was Jeremy Chin, which is on the Commanders now, which that's kind of a full circle moment, which is crazy. But so, yeah, I just think that's the difference. Ron Rivera drafted and free agent signed according to what he thought solely would fit this team and build the culture he wanted, which he never really told us what kind of culture it was. Going to get EB as an offensive coordinator, that kind of let you know on what's going to happen, but that blew up in our face day one pretty much. But with Adam Peters and DQ and Joe Witt and everybody else, they all got together, took time, went over everything, came here with a plan, and not just quarterback. You know, like Ron Rivera, they said, we're going to be this, we're going to do this, and we're going to draft and sign free agents accordingly that fit the mold. It's not going to be any splashy big name signings. And we're all like, come on, you just got to do one. And now I'm cool with it. We're 8-5 in a playoff race, which we didn't have when we went and got Chase Youngs, the Montez Sweats, the Emmanuel Forbes, the Jamin Davises. Didn't happen with those big names. Now we're going to get a bunch of Jags, as we like to throw around this podcast a lot, which, let's be honest, some of the ones we got are Jags, but they just happen to revitalize the career right now with us, or just it just happened to work here with us. So I'm rambling too much, but the difference is this new regime had a plan. Ron Rivera had his own plan, but didn't really execute it or elaborate what said plan was, unlike how Dan Quinn and Adam Peters have.
I kind of feel like Rivera during those drafts was just kind of winging it.
Yeah.
Right? Exactly what you're saying, Trev. It didn't feel like that he had a philosophy of what he wanted his organization to be, other than he wanted high character guys. That was more important to him, I felt like, than talent. And then he was just like, let me take this guy. Let me prove to everybody in the NFL and everywhere else that I'm smarter than you. That the whole world is telling me that I need to pick Christian Gonzalez at corner. But no, I'm going to do something that's going to stun everybody, and then I'm going to prove him wrong, and I'm going to take Emmanuel Forbes.
Yep.
Or everybody is telling me to take JOK, right? I can't say his name, so I'm not going to try, right? Everybody says that that's the guy. That's the linebacker that you should be taking if you're looking at linebacker. No. I'm going to take this high character guy that's played like 12 career college games. And not only that, but I'm going to play him in a different position than what he knows.
Well, they did try they did try Jamin out at middle linebacker. It was immediately failed. It immediately failed.
Okay, right.
And Emmanuel Forbes, similarly, they wanted him. This is where, when you're talking about them being smarter, they outsmarted themselves so many times when it took these personnel. Now, they did have a philosophy, right? You said it. They wanted captains. They wanted high character guys. It was kind of funny to me, this draft, there was much ado about how Adam Peters and Dan Quinn were drafting captains. Well, we've heard that before. Ron Rivera wanted captains. It's not uncommon to want people who were leaders among their team. He wanted high character guys. He also was drafting high relative athletic score guys. That's Jamin Davis's bread and butter.
Sure.
Now, the thing was, and where they got in trouble with trying to be smarter than the rest of the people, were they were taking guys who maybe didn't have the experience, Jamin Davis, or they were taking guys who had a specific skill set, but maybe that skill set's not going to translate. And that's Emmanuel Forbes, who ball hawk. That was one of their main focuses, right? Was finding a guy who can take away the ball. So they get Emmanuel Forbes. Well, Emmanuel Forbes' strength is playing off the ball, but then they line him up man on man.
Yeah.
And so it was just like they're trying to outsmart themselves. They were trying to get the guys that they thought were right, but then they weren't putting them in the positions to be successful. And that was time in and time out with every single one of their picks. It seemed like if someone was successful under the Ron Rivera tenure, it was not because of what the coaches were doing, but because their talent exceeded that of what was around them.
Sure.
Looking at Sam Cosmi, who they wanted to be out at right tackle, and because of some injuries and everything, ended up getting sliding inside to a more natural right guard position, and he became rather successful.
I went and looked back at our draft content, and if you haven't been around Ref the District very long, we always do a live draft show. So I went all the way back to the 2021 draft. 2022 draft. And I looked at our content when we were following that. And I don't know if you remember, Trev, but this was when we were at the stadium.
Okay.
Nathan and I were at the stadium.
Yeah.
And they traded back. Remember, it was the whole big to-do. Everyone thought they were going to take Chris Olave from Ohio State, the wide receiver, and they traded to New Orleans for the 16th pick and a couple other later picks, right? And then the pick came, and it was Jahan Dotson.
Yep.
And Trev lost his mind. He went running out of the room, said, I don't even know who that dude is, basically. Because Jahan Dotson was not expected to go 16th. He was a late first round, early second round.
22 on. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then you go to the Fedarian Mathis pick in the second round. And Nathan and I both recorded ourselves live when that pick was made, and our jaws dropped.
Yeah.
And again, so did Fedarian Mathis's jaw. He could not believe he was selected that high. And then you go back to the 2023 draft, and we were, again, when it got to about pick 12, Washington was pick 16, right? It got to pick 12, and we're screaming at the TVs, trade up for Christian Gonzalez, trade up, and our whole chat is just flooded with Gonzo, go get Gonzo, now go get him. And then when it got to the 16th pick, and we're all like, it's a done deal. They're taking Christian Gonzalez. I mean, this
You're reading off Gonzo stats, right? Like, we were totally like, this is not to be the pick at this point.
Yeah, didn't have to trade up. What a brilliant, brilliant move. And then Emmanuel Forbes, and we're all like, what? And not to say that we're like some draft savants, but it goes to the point that all of these guys that they're taking so early were not graded that way. And it was just the philosophy of high character. I'm going to be able to show everybody in the world that I'm smarter than everybody in the NFL world. Yeah. And it blew up in their faces and cost everybody their jobs. Everybody except who? Ryan Kerrigan and Tavika Pritchard? Are they like the only two holdovers left? All those people lost their jobs because Ron Rivera's philosophy, Ron Rivera / the Martys, you got to put some on them as well.
There you go. Martin Mayhew is still there.
Yeah, you're right. But all of those people lost their jobs because of those decisions. And I don't know how Nathan's going to spin this to try and say that it was a good thing that this happened.
It's going to happen.
I mean,
it's going to happen.
Let's see you.
I will make some believers out of you yet. And we're not alone here in this. Lots of people in the chat. We do, of course, stream live every Wednesday at 7:30 Eastern here on YouTube and Facebook. Locked on Law. Daniel here in the house. Roger as well. Scooby asking, is 200 pounds really what it takes to get a ticket? I pulled up Seat Geek. I'll take a look at that here in a little bit. TJ, JG, Armand asking you to like and subscribe. Joel here as well. We appreciate all those people here. And TJ is not even going to bury the lead here a little bit. But I mean, I was going to lead into this a little bit, TJ, because there's more to it than this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there are other reasons why I do believe to be happy. But when I look at where you are now, okay, look at the fact that you have Jaden Daniels as your QB. Mm-hmm. You have Adam Peters as your GM. You have Dan Quinn as your head coach, who's bringing in talented head coaches who are taking coordinator positions, who've held higher positions before, who have been successful in the coordinator positions from across the league. You got Bobby Wagner coming to a team that won 4 games last year, willingly coming here to Washington. Guys like Bobby Wagner, who will be in the Hall of Fame, Zach Ertz, who somebody had pointed out is probably a top 10 tight end of all time.
That's probably a little high, but okay. Probably top 10 of this generation.
Statistically,
I mean, we're not putting him over like Jason Witten and Tony Gonzalez.
He's surprisingly enough, he's up there in the test. But we're not going to argue about Zach Ertz here.
Yeah.
But all roads lead you to here. And I have kind of a similar sentiment in my own life. I don't have regrets in my own life because I'm happy with where I'm at. And if I were to change something, the butterfly effect happens, right? And we pick JOK. Maybe we win an extra game or two. Maybe Ron Rivera lasts the season. You know, maybe Eric Bieniemy works out as an offensive coordinator, and we're trying out Sam Howell this season for a second year in a row, and not having Jaden Daniels. So you make these little changes that we wanted. I didn't want a wide receiver in that draft. I wanted
Kyle Hamilton. Yeah, I remember that.
He was the best player in the draft. Why would you veer from that? Right? And so you make any of these switches and things don't necessarily go to where they are. So that's one aspect to it. Secondly, you take a look at this roster and you see that it's a 60% turnover.
Right.
By and large, that's thankful to the fact that it was such cruddy drafting and cruddy free agency. And Stoner, I know you have the stats for free agents that we can get into here as we continue this conversation. Washington and Washington fans needed nothing more than a clean slate to work from.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Removing Dan Snyder, I'll put $1 in the jar, was step one of it. Step two was moving forward, right? And when you're talking a 60% turnover, when you don't have to worry about past draft picks and are they going to work out or not going to work out, Adam Peters is ripping off that Band-Aid for us right now. Ripping it off.
Yep.
Okay. We don't have to focus on that. We're getting a clean slate. And I feel like that's very important for this team when you're talking about building the identity that Dan Quinn wants. You're not having to try to force round pegs into square holes or square pegs into round holes, right? You're just able to move forward. We're more of an expansion team. And expansion teams, and I unfortunately didn't get around to the stat finding portion of this, but I'd feel like expansion teams get a little bit of a leg up. They still struggle out the gate, but when you're talking about a team that is like first in the draft, like it might take a few years unless they hit on that draft pick to kind of bounce back. But when you're an expansion team, you get to take players from other people's rosters, and maybe they're not the best. Trev, you call them Jags, right? We're getting Noah Brown and Oz. These are like wide receiver 3 and 4 on most other teams, and they're asked to be higher for Washington. But we get that level of talent across the board. And that's, you add it with the talent that is Jaden Daniels and the coaching that is Dan Quinn, Joe Witt Jr., and Cliff Kingsbury. And you get a winning record. You get a record that we may see 11 wins for the first time since Trev was wearing diapers.
Yeah.
Right.
In large part is because they just wiped the slate clean. Did it stink throughout those 4 years? Yeah. Does it hurt not to have something to show from those years? Yeah. But all roads led to where we are now.
Right.
And that clean slate was so important. And that's why, and for the record, everyone, I'm called annoyingly optimistic. So this is part of this. You guys get a little bit of taste of it, where I found the silver lining here on all of these draft whips, on all of these free agent whiffs. How much open space do we have in the cap? It's ridiculous.
Yes. Okay. Can I poke a hole in your theory? Which I do like your theory. I do agree with you to the point that Where we're at right now as an organization, I don't see anything negative or any major hurdles in our future. Everything, and I mean everything, looks bright. Owner, stadium, front office, quarterback, players, all of that stuff is nothing but great things looking forward. But the hole in your theory is, and I'm not saying this is a negative thing, but the hole in your theory, why does it have to only be A or B? Why does it only have to be either you're going to continue on sucking with Rivera and maybe getting 7 or 8 wins and struggling along and not getting all these other things, or you have to crash and burn and get to where everything is brand new? There are other ways of going about being a good organization. It doesn't have to be a crash and burn. There are teams that can be down for a little bit and slowly work their way up without crashing and burning. You can find a free agent quarterback. You can find a good coach. And maybe Rivera is a good coach if he had a better talent evaluator to bring in better players. Because I don't hate Ron Rivera as a coach. I hate Ron Rivera as a talent evaluator. What if he ended up, instead of bringing in guys like Carson Wentz and Ryan Fitzpatrick and all that, what if he was able to maneuver something so that he could bring in an Aaron Rodgers 5 years ago, right? I'm not talking.
You guys
about
wanted Russell Wilson. You guys wanted Derek Carr. You guys,
Russell Wilson.
You guys were so desperate for so many people.
But that can happen. You can get let's just say a Russell Wilson with Ron Rivera and also Terry McLaurin, and then bringing in, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be either you suck forever under Ron Rivera or you crash and burn. It doesn't have to be one or the other. And that's the hole in the theory that I say that, if the Jets hadn't kicked that game-winning field goal last year, then we wouldn't have the number 2 overall pick, right? But he did, and so we have to be happy that they did that. But that's just not necessarily the truth. What if you had the 3rd pick and you ended up with Drake May? What if you had the 5th pick and you ended up with J.J. McCarthy or Michael Penix or Bo Nix or whatever? It's not either Jaden Daniels or you're going to suck forever. So just try to keep that in mind, and then it's not always, it's only this way or that way. It doesn't have to be that way. And so that's kind of the hole in the bucket of your theory that lets the water leak out, that says maybe that theory is not as rock solid. Understand your sentiment, though, about it. And that here we are, and we haven't been in a better position in 30 years.
It seems like there's more what ifs in yours, though, where mine it's a little bit.
You can't see it. You can't see it. You can't visualize it because it didn't happen. You can only visualize B, which is crash and burn, new owner, new coach, new front office, new quarterback.
Which is what happened.
Right. That's all you can visualize. But you can't visualize. Just take any other team in the league and try and visualize what they have done to get to where they are. They didn't all crash and burn and get new owners and new front office and new coaches and all that stuff. Look at Kansas City. Kansas City has been up here forever, for a long time. They had Alex Smith, and they were doing great. And they picked Patrick Mahomes with the 10th pick. They didn't crash and burn. And
they were not good for years before that, for the record, but okay.
Right. There was a certain time there.
Andy Reid changed that franchise
when you get to Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, they didn't crash and burn to get to them. They didn't have to get new ownership and 60% roster turnover. They did it from here and then got up to here. And San Francisco is another one of those organizations. They didn't crash and burn. So all I'm saying is you don't have to go to rock bottom to be able to get back to the top.
That is okay.
So Trev, a couple different things here for you to Stoner's point. Okay. If you don't have to crash and burn.
Yeah.
Is there a pick, any of the picks during the Ron Rivera era, that you think would have drastically changed the franchise in a way that was more than mediocre? Because Stoner is saying not riding the mediocre train, but actually elevating this roster to a point where they were contenders, much in the way that Andy Reid was able to turn Kansas City into contender. Is there any pick, any one of them, that you feel would have changed the trajectory of the franchise to be further than where we are currently today?
I hate to say it, but honestly, Chase Young, out of all of them, he was the guy coming out of school. He was the guy that we had our eyes on. He was the guy that rumors were going around we're going to draft, and we actually went and followed through with it, got him with the number 2 pick. I know injuries happened and off the field stuff happened, missing voluntary work and stuff. But, we didn't think that would happen when we got him. We just thought, we're going to win now. It's going to change the organization. We have a good defense now. Like, I really thought it was going to be Chase Young because of who he was in college and where he was when we drafted him. Like, that was the best pick out of all by Ron Rivera, and probably the smartest pick that we've had too at the time. So I'm going to say Chase Young, because everybody else, I was just like, what are you doing? Even Montez Sweat, I'm like, what are you doing? Quan Martin, what are you doing? I know he's still here, but it's still like, what are you doing? Like,
yeah. Locked on Law saying Justin Herbert might have been the better pick, but with the front office that we had, maybe it wasn't.
Right.
And Brock talking about, the Giants are trash and maybe we don't need to focus on the past, and we're going to focus on the season, Brock, and we're going to get to that kind of stuff. But the point is, right now we're talking about how this franchise has missed for 4 or 5 years with Ron Rivera. But even before that, name the best pick since. Who you guys want to pick?
For what? Since when?
And that's my point. Since the best picks in the Dan Snyder era, you could probably count them on 2 hands.
Robert Griffin III, does he have to be up there with one of them?
He's probably one of the better picks in Washington Dan Snyder tenure. And
there's some really good picks in there, to be fair. The John Allen, Deron Payne, Brandon Sheriff, Terry McLaurin. Look, those are all
Terry McLaurin is
all great picks. You don't have to be a Hall of Famer in order to be considered a great pick.
Okay.
Right.
Deron Payne is a great pick. Sorry. John Allen is a great pick. Brandon Sheriff is a great pick.
We can probably argue Deron Payne a little bit given the position value and all that kind of stuff and the fact that they had just drafted Jonathan Allen. But Trev, my second part of this was outside of an individual pick. Can you name a franchise? Because Stoner says there's other franchises that they don't have to hit rock bottom. Washington did, as I think it was Armand or maybe Timothy who pointed out. Washington did have to hit rock bottom, but maybe not other franchises. Can you name another franchise that was so bad for 30 plus years that managed to turn things around without hitting rock bottom? Because there was several years of just mediocrity since the winning a Super Bowl in the 91-92 season. There's some mediocre years there. There was a lot of bottom years, a lot of not good years, a lot of 0-6s in the division. Can you name a team that had a similar 30-year run that was able to crawl out without ever hitting rock bottom, without ever picking top 5, Stoner? Is that fair?
Well, I was sitting there trying to think of the teams as you were going. No, but the closest one I could get to, but they have obviously hit rock bottom, but they didn't change a lot. The Detroit Lions. That's my closest I can come. I mean, I know they hit rock bottom, yes,
like
but I'm
4 wide receivers.
But like they didn't. But they didn't. They didn't change ownership. They didn't go through name change. They didn't go through all this. They didn't have a dark cloud that was nationally known from the whole entire league as their ownership. I mean, they might have, but they hit it better. I don't know, but I know they hit rock bottom, but they didn't do a complete flip. They just got Dan Campbell, traded for Jared Goff, and then we just got their guy, Lance Newmark, this year, so he's been there for years. And I guess Brad Holmes is their guy, and they started drafting well and signing free. And I know they were super rock bottom. I know that. I just don't know of a team right now that hasn't but did it, but they're the closest one that didn't go through a change like the Washington organization.
I forgot about that.
They went 0-16.
Yeah.
But they didn't go through a flip like we have with ownership,
Sure.
front office, full coaching staff, 60% roster turnover. They were back consistently for a year, got a new coach, got some new pieces here, got Jared Goff, and now they're 11-1. And probably the best team in the league right now. With Amon-Ra St. Brown,
really good.
Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery. They didn't draft him. They signed him. They had DeAndre Swift. He killed us when he was there. Let him go. Went and got Jahmyr Gibbs. They got Amon-Ra St. Brown. They've got Aiden Hutchinson when he was healthy. Like all the Gardner Johnson was there for a while. They just started building their team with players, and now they're 11-1. They just signed Jamal Adams, who I know he's probably out of his prime, but he's there now because they're the best team in the league. Like whoever wanted to go play for Detroit Lion football.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Kind of along these same lines here. We talked earlier about how the previous regime was outsmarting and they were reaching for guys. Now, the only time that it's a problem that you reach for a guy, because people have their own board, is when you reach for a guy and it doesn't work out.
Sure.
Because when you reach for a guy and then they play well, all the Detroit players, because there were several players that they picked, was it last year's draft?
Well, no, it was 2 years ago. It was with Gibbs and Campbell.
2 years ago was
Sam Laporta.
And Laporta. I mean, when they drafted Gibbs, remember they drafted Gibbs like top 10, and we were stunned.
Yeah.
Yes.
Everybody was shocked because you just didn't do it, and everyone was clowning them, and it's worked out.
Yeah.
And that's why it's never a problem to reach for a guy. I never want to hear about, well, you could have gotten him at such and such. You don't know that. You don't know who's going to be available. Take your guy when you get him. And if it doesn't work out, then yeah, it's bad. It was a bad pick. But if it works out, no one cares that Gibbs was taken in a top 15 of that NFL draft. They care about how he is. Is he Sonic or is he Knuckles? Is that the Sonic and Knuckles group?
I think Sonic.
Yeah.
Montgomery. Yeah. So with him and Montgomery, no one. That's all they care about. They care about that they've got one loss and they're looking like they're going to walk into the NFC Championship game. Now, Washington has a little bit of an uphill battle to get to that NFC Championship game, but we're going to be talking about exactly where the season has been that's gotten to them to at least have a puncher's chance. That's coming up here on Ref the District. The past is past is what our viewers were saying here. So I welcome you to the game where we're now talking about our Christmas present. And our present right now is a team that has overachieved by most sports books. But really, if you're a Washington fan, you weren't sleeping on this team because you knew Jaden Daniels and the new look Commanders could, like Trev, picked them to win 12 games at the beginning of the season, have that capability. So don't sleep on these Washington Commanders. They are a good team, and you don't have to sleep if you head over to don'tsleepenergy.com. Use the code DISTRICT to get yourself 10% off your entire order. Support a local DMV company by getting your energy needs, whether or not it's one of their energy drinks, sugar-free or original, or one of their energy shots. They've got you taken care of. That's Don't Sleep Energy. It makes you great. Washington 8-5, second in the NFC East, an outside chance of still winning the East, and a strong chance, 70% chance of making the playoffs by most prognostics as they are. And so how up to this, we're at the bye week, gentlemen, and we're feeling good. This is all a feel good podcast now. We just won against the Tennessee Titans, and not just win. We won in a dominant fashion, a way that we expected to win, and we actually followed suit. Great run game, efficient passing game. Defense looked a little bit better. Special teams didn't give away the ball, which was nice to see. So where do you currently stand with the team at 8-5?
You know me. Oh man. I'm afraid I'm going to get roasted here, but look, 8-5 is a great position. You're a full game and a half up on anybody who's trying to come in and steal that 7th wild card spot. But if you stay in the 7th spot, you're going to end up playing Philly, right? That's a tall task, right? It's going to be hard to get the 6th or 5th spot because you're talking about teams that are already at 9 and 10 wins. So they're going to have to come back to you. But it could happen. The thing is, Washington is unproven at this point. They haven't beaten anybody of consequence. Their 8 wins are all against very poor teams. The best win of the year is Arizona, who's 6-6. So they are a unproven playoff team at this point. Any time that they have played a good team, they've lost. Every time that they've played a good team, they've lost. And that is concerning to how the rest of this season is going to go in terms of, even if you get to the playoffs, which I think they will, I think they're going to probably finish with the 7th seed. But then you're going to start playing real teams again, right? And so that concerns me. And then I'm trying to figure out, does that mean that it was a successful season? Let's say you go 2-2 in your last 4. And you get to 10 wins and 7 losses. You get the 7th seed, and you go to Philly, and you get blown out in Philly in the playoffs, right? And your last 2 wins are going to be against New Orleans and Dallas. Let's just say 2 bad teams again, right? And then next year, you're going to play the NFC North. Hello, 3 playoff teams this year.
Chicago should be way higher.
Chicago will be a lot better. They've got tons of draft picks. They're going to have a new coach, all of that, right? And you're going to play the AFC West. You're going to be playing Kansas City, Vegas, the Chargers, and remind me who the 4th team out.
Broncos.
And the Broncos, right? So at least 2 of those games are going to be on the road. So next year is going to be tough.
Sure.
We'll worry about next year. But my point is,
that's a lot of future.
Right. But my point is, how are you going to view this team's success of 2024 when you have 10 wins and 7 losses, and your 10 wins are all against bad teams, and you go into Philly in a playoff game and get blown out? How do you view that as a successful season when you only won 4 games the year before? That's
double-digit victories
I'm concerned about.
Often here, Stoner.
What's that?
Said double-digit victories does not happen often.
Right.
And again, I mentioned we might be an 11-win team for the first time since Trev was in diapers.
Yeah. And if we all want to talk about modeling ourselves after the Houston Texans, right? You can turn it all around in 1 year as long as you get the right quarterback and the right coach, which is what they did. And they go to the playoffs and they look really good. They win double-digit games. And then what happens the next year? They come back down to earth. They start playing a tougher schedule. Teams are more prepared for that quarterback and that team. And that's what you have to look out for going into the future. I'm just concerned that we're going to get too high of what this team has done this year, and we're not going. And then our expectations are going to be up here again. One of the reasons
they were before that Dallas game, our expectations were high. We lose that, and everybody wanted to burn the city down.
Yeah. So that's all. That's the biggest thing, is that I'm concerned about how we're going to, how we're going to handle the expectations of an off season when you've had a successful year of 10 wins against 10 bad teams.
Get rid of the quotation marks. It's actually really successful. It's not successful. Yeah, Stoner. That means we won 10 or 11 games with a brand new owner, brand new GM, brand new coaching staff, a rookie quarterback who battled through a rib injury, Jags, and we made the playoffs. We just won 4 games last year.
Yeah.
We won how many 8 games before that? We missed the playoffs. If we make the playoffs and get blown out, such is life. Playoffs is a whole brand new season.
Yeah,
we made it. Nobody on this podcast, nobody who watches this podcast, and nobody who watches Commanders ever would have thought that Dan Quinn coming back for a round 2 of head coaching would lead us to a 10 or 11 win season with guys like Frankie Louvu, Jeremy Chin, Noah Igby, Michael Davis, Zach Ertz, Dante Fowler, Cleveland Farrell.
I get all that, Trev.
An aging Bobby Wagner.
How about a rookie as one of your starting cornerbacks?
Yes.
A rookie at left tackle who Stoner feels that's the second most important position after quarterback. I mean,
it's not success. It's actually true success, bro. We have been in turmoil for 30 years. Yeah, we made the playoffs a couple of times here and there, but we're winning with nobody, if that makes sense. Jaden Daniels is somebody. But outside of that, Austin Ekeler is somebody. You know what I'm saying? But we're winning with nobody. We had bodies here. We had the Chase Youngs. We had the Carson Wentzes. We had the Ryan Fitzpatricks. We had the Taylor Heineke's. We had Adrian Peterson here, for Pete's sake. Like, we had the guys here and nothing. Now we're playing with nobody and we're something. I think that's success. Seriously. If you would have told an average football fan, hey, this team has just got 60% roster turnover, a coach who lost 28-3 in the Super Bowl against the Patriots, he's coaching again. They got a really good GM, though. He's cool. And their owner owns a basketball team or two in the NBA. He's pretty cool. But you think they're going to make the playoffs? Look at their linebacking core. Frankie Louvu, Bobby Wagner, who's 70 years old, a rookie quarterback who can't play in the cold and he's too skinny to take a hit in the big leagues. And Terry McLaurin's your best guy, and he's the wide receiver 3 on the as best on another team. And an aging Austin Ekeler and Zach Ertz trying to get his career back. 10, 11 wins. Yeah, right. And we're doing it, bro.
You make good points, Trev. You make all good points. Those are great points, Trev.
We really should be 9-4.
You do have to take it in context. And when I hear people say that, well, all the games we lost were close. You got blown out by Philly. You got blown out by Tampa. You only lost 5 games. So 2 of your 5 were not close. You had 3 close ones: Pittsburgh, Dallas, and Baltimore. So 3 of your 5 losses were close. But the context is that you've beaten some of the worst teams in the league. Good for you. Good for them. They have beaten the teams that they're supposed to.
They haven't done historically, though.
Right. Good.
Right.
That's great. But you do have to take it in context. And I'm just saying, look at what you're going up. And I know the future does look bright. You've got $120 million in cap space. You've got your quarterback. You've got draft picks, all of that. By the way, you've got your cornerback 1 already locked up for the next 3 years. You don't have to draft that guy. All of these things are true.
4.
But try and tell me that Philadelphia is going to go backwards.
Why can't they?
That Dallas is going to stay down, right? That the teams who are in the playoffs now, you think Detroit's going to go backwards? Do you think Minnesota's going to go backwards? Green Bay?
Yeah. Minnesota's overachieving too, for the record.
You think San Francisco's going to stay down? Things like that? All of these teams, every single one of these teams and their fan bases are saying, well, next year we got the GM who's going to be able to put in certain guys. We've got draft picks and free agents and all this other things. They're saying the same thing. They're not all going to all of a sudden get worse. Do you think Detroit's going to get worse in their current situation? Do you think Philadelphia is going to get worse? How are they going to get worse? And you have to play them twice. You think Dallas is going to sit back and trot out what's the guy's name? The doofus quarterback that played Cooper Rush.
You think
they're going to trot out Cooper Rush throwing to Jonathan Mingo,
Trey Lance for a package every like
Dak's going to be there. Quarters. He's going to be better. They're going
Dak,
to.
They were winning with Dak.
Yes, they did, Trev. They were winning 12 games a year.
There were 3-3 this year.
Not this year.
Down though.
3-3, 6 games. You're talking about 6 games.
You're talking about a mythical world that we don't even know about.
Philly was 2-2 with Jalen Hurts. Now they're 10-2 with Jalen Hurts.
Mark,
and last year they were 10-2 and finished the season 10-7.
Remember better. That? The one thing I can't stand, Mark Beretta 57 or was it just Mark Beretta? One thing I can't stand is for people to say that if you're critical of this team, that doesn't make you a fan. I'm putting things in context. I love everything about what this team is doing. I love everything that's in place and the $120 million. And look at this draft class that they put together. And Jaden Daniels. All of these things are amazing. But let's just put it in context. That's awesome. All I would like people to do is to say you've beaten Carolina, the New York Giants twice.
We can't help it,
Cincinnati. Dude. I know you can't help it. And that's great that you have 10 wins. But put it in context and stop thinking that this is a Super Bowl team.
Bro,
it's not.
You can't beat that. I want
playoffs right now.
We never beat the Giants till this year, bro, and we had better players. We never split.
That's your benchmark. That's your benchmark. We haven't beaten the Giants in previous.
Yeah, years. Because you just said, are the Cowboys going to be down? Are the Eagles? You named everybody in the division. Why can't I say the Giants then? Because they always beat us, no matter what, bro. They
did have a strong record. Dabbles specifically has had a strong record against Washington.
I think you guys are you're delusional sometimes.
No, we're not.
You're you're incapable.
You're being the opposite. You're the opposite of delusional. You're projecting like the worst possible situation when it comes to the kind of things. And yes, Stoner, you can be critical of the team. And yes, you can be I'll say this though, Stoner.
I'm not even being critical.
You can be a realist without being Debbie Downer.
How am I being Debbie Downer?
Because you're saying, look who we beat. We beat Carolina. We beat the Browns. Yeah, well, we can't help that those teams suck this year.
Don't try to unmute yourself,
last year and we still lost to them. You kidding me? We were supposed to destroy the Cardinals last year with EB and Sam Howell and Ron Rivera and Sweat and Chase Young and Kendall Fuller and all this stuff. And we barely beat them with Josh Dobbs controlling their offense. So then this year we go to town with a healthy Kyler Murray, with a Marvin Harrison stud, and we destroy them. Okay? With a bunch of nobodies. You can't include Tampa Bay because that was the first game of the season. No one picked us to win that anyway. Okay? You can't control that. Tampa Bay's poopy ever since that win, if you think about it. Okay? It's a success story. It's none of this. It's none of the you beat the Carolina. Yeah, well, who cares? That's what we're supposed to do. If we weren't beating them, then you could say, oh, well, we're 8-5 and we lost to Carolina and Cleveland. It's a success. I could give you that. But bro, no, we're 8-5. And talking about playoffs in week 14 of the NFL season as the Washington Commander. It's success. Nathan, take it away.
For the audio listeners, Stoner is muted right now. So he wrote success with quotations around it. And Stoner, I'm going to unmute you here in a little bit, but I did want to try to get some words in edgewise because you're kind of off your rocker right now.
I mean,
I want to talk about how there's a happy medium between where you're at and where the fans who are talking Super Bowl. Stoner, don't raise your hands like you haven't been talking about successful with quotations and talking about how Washington is going to struggle because they haven't beat a real team and how all these other teams, because the way that you're talking, Stoner, about these other teams who have had down years this year, or maybe they're having good years this year and you expect them to continue having good years, the way that you present that information, you're presenting in a way that posits that Washington is not going to have a good year, that Washington's going to regress to the mean because they haven't beat anybody. And we don't know what the future is going to have. And we're going to talk more about the future just this upcoming season and what we can talk about there. But as far as this season's concerned right now, we're punching above our weight. Okay.
Yes.
We are winning games we're supposed to be winning, which is not something that's been said before. We are challenging teams that are good teams. Now, I agree with you. I don't necessarily jump in with the people who are saying, hey, these were close games. I don't like that mentality. We heard that with the Tampa Bay loss in the playoffs with Taylor Heineke. Oh, well, we're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers' biggest challenge on their way to the Super Bowl. No one cares. In the end. No one cares. But here's the thing. This is a 4-win team coming into the season. They were predicted by most experts to not even win 6 games this year, let alone win 8 games. And so I would love to go back sooner. You said you went back and you watched our draft episodes. I want you to go back and I want you to look at that season prediction that we had for this year. And we talked about it then. And I want you just to answer from what you remember, Stoner. I'm going to unmute you now. I want you to answer for me. What did you think at the beginning of the season success looked like?
My success for the beginning of the season was nothing other than finding out that JD5 is your future. That to me was what success would mean.
So are we successful with quotation marks?
Correct.
No. No, bro. Quotations mean it's like not for real, for real. That's what the quotations mean, Stoner. So you're saying that.
For my interpretation of whether or not this team has had a successful season.
Oh my gosh.
There are no quotation marks.
All right.
Because you have learned that Jaden Daniels is the man. That he is your future. That he is everything. And he's not everything that you hoped he
had us in the first half, not going to lie.
Yeah, he did.
He's not everything that we thought he would be. He's 1,000 times more than we thought he could be. So that makes the season a success.
Thank you very much. That's all we were asking you.
But I'm just talking about in general of what everybody else thinks of this team as a success or not. Because everybody else thinks this team is a playoff team.
So wait. Okay,
let me ask you. They're a good team, and they're not.
Let me ask you this.
They're a good or an average team.
Let me ask you this. Jaden Daniels has the exact same stats he has up until this point. Our record is 5-8. Are we successful?
Absolutely.
Not?
Absolutely. Absolutely 100%.
I would
Nobody
do that.
cared. Nobody came into this season wanting to be a 8-5, 10 and overall 10-7.
I picked 12-5.
Everybody just wanted to know that Jaden Daniels was the guy. Nobody
we already
saw
knew he was the guy.
No, we didn't.
We knew he was.
We certainly hoped he was. We certainly hoped he was. There's been plenty of guys we thought were the guys, and they didn't turn out to be the guy.
We knew he was.
But he is, and he's way more than we even thought he would be. But I'm just saying in terms of what they've done, and I starred something over here. Let me go back to it if I can, right here. That Paul puts in here, and this is perfect. We could be better next year and win less games.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm trying to say. We could go next year and be better, but have to face Kansas City and Denver and the Chargers and Minnesota and Green Bay and Detroit and lose most of those games. You could go 8-9 next year and say, you know what? We're actually a better team.
How?
We just couldn't get some of these games over the hump. You could have games like we had against Pittsburgh this year where you were that close, right? And you couldn't do it. And that might be how it goes against Detroit. But you can say, you know what? We've figured out who wide receiver 2 is. We've got that edge rusher that we've been hoping for, and he's got 12.5 sacks. But we just haven't been able to put it all together. So, yeah, you absolutely can go 8-9 next year and actually be a better team. It's not all about the wins and losses, because I don't put a whole lot of stock into beating Tennessee and Carolina and the New York Giants twice, and just bad teams like that. I don't put a whole lot of stock into it. It's great. I love it. I'm happy you're going to the playoffs. You get in the playoffs and anything can happen. That's awesome. But that doesn't make you necessarily a good team, and it doesn't make you a success.
Bro.
Yeah.
What makes your team successful is getting to the postseason. The 8-9 as a better team, I don't like that. We're not a better team if we went 8-9. We just have better talent, but we're not a better team. If he has 12 sacks, cool. We're 8-9. 4,000 passing yards, cool. We're 8-9. We're sitting at home watching everyone else play the postseason. But we're a better team because what? Because how are we a better team if we won 2 less games, lost 2 more games, but we have better talent? How are we a better team?
Because you've gone up against teams that are far more talented
and lost,
and
right?
You've lost to them. Yeah.
So what's the difference in that?
You're not playing Carolina next year. You're not playing.
But we did that already with Pittsburgh, Philadelphia,
right?
Baltimore. We did that already. Gone up against better teams and lost very closely. Lost.
Not
if
Philly.
you do the same, we had them all 3 quarters except for the 4th quarter, so we did play them close.
Philly was.
It happened right after. No. Anyways, we do this. If we did the same thing next year, but we're 8-9, how's that a better team? If we did the same thing as we did this year against elite teams next year, but we're 8-9, we're not a better team. We're a worse team. That doesn't make any sense to me.
I don't agree with that.
Joseph here saying, as a Rams fan, our 2018 team was better than 2021, but 2021 won a Super Bowl. Better team doesn't matter.
In the end, it matters if it matters when you're comparing it to individually as you're building up, for the future.
I agree. There's certain context here, as Locked on Law is pointing out. In the end, Brock saying Trev is right. Where it comes down to wins and losses is what matters, and that is what the team will be judged on. When we're looking at this team years down the road, does it matter to you that the 92 year they were 9-7? Well, in 1999 they were 10-6. Which one was the better team? Or 2005 they were 10-6. How about one of those? Or 2012 they were 10-6. Were those better teams than 92 team? No one's going to know really. It's going to come down to
this? I have another context to see. Just to ask a question. Let's say you go 11-6 this year, right? And let's say you get the 6th seed in the playoffs. Let's say you even get the 5 seed.
Yeah, it is.
And then you go into that wild card game and you just get smoked, right? Okay. You just get humiliated.
Okay.
And then next year you go 9-8. You win 2 less games, but you get the 7th seed in the wild card. And then you go all the way to the NFC title game, right? Because you have better talent and you are a better team, but you had tough losses against Kansas City on the road and Detroit on the road. And when Green Bay came in here on Sunday night and torched us on Sunday Night Football. But you were still able to pound on the Giants a couple times and pound on some other, the Bears and the Raiders and things like that, right? And so, but you make it in at 9-8, and you just know it's a better team. And then you advance a couple of rounds into the playoffs. That's a better team, even though you won less games.
Yeah, well, it's a better team because you advanced further in the playoffs, not because you won less. You won more games when it mattered. That's why it's a better team. Chip and a chair, sir. Chip and a chair.
So 9-8, you get the 7th seed, and you play the 2 seed, and you lose by 1 on a last-second field goal. Whereas this year, you go 11-6, and you're the 7th seed, and you go to Philly, and you get blown out 38-18. So more wins this year, less wins the following year, but you showed better in the playoffs.
You still bounced out in the wild card?
Did you lose?
You bounce out in the wild card, it's the same result.
Did you lose?
Come on, guys. Hey,
it's about wins and losses, bro. It's not about.
It's not. It is.
That's exactly what the NFL is about: wins and losses.
It is to
nothing
a point,
else.
but you guys have to look at it a little deeper instead of just saying on the surface.
We would be in a better position next year, Stoner, than we would be this year, which is why it's crazy how much you're talking about how next year Washington is going to struggle when we don't even know where next year is going to lie for this team when it's already seen a big roster turnover. We still have a lot of draft picks. We still have a lot of cap space. There's a lot of offseason to be had before we even start talking about this next offseason. In this season, Washington stands at 8-5. They have, for the first time in a long time, I actually did bring up the list of records here, as you might have guessed when I started rattling off some. They've only had double-digit victories 3 times since the turn of the century. So just 3. We're experiencing something that we haven't done in a long time. 2012, 2005. I'm sorry, just 2 times since the turn of the century. Those are the only 2 times that they hit double-digit victories. And some people are taking that, Stoner, to the extreme, and they're very optimistic, even more annoyingly optimistic than me, and thinking this is a Super Bowl team, type deal. There are deficiencies here, and it's right to call those out. But this is a team who, again, is achieving success at a rate that we have not seen. So let's talk about those 8 victories and that man over here wearing number 8. This is a team that's been successful through a run game, not necessarily through its stellar QB play, although we've already determined it's a successful season in that regards. Finding out Jaden Daniels can play some football is pretty dang on exciting. What did you think about Stoner? Even though we've given you the floor plenty of times here, but this is particularly targeted towards you because this is an offense who we talked about. If we could just go from bottom, we're like the 32nd ranked offense last year, right? Maybe 28th at the highest. If we can just get to like middle of the pack, we would be excited. We've seen them jump up to one of the top 5 offenses in the league, Stoner, through a guy who you did not like coming in. And we've seen some struggles, to be fair, but this is an 8-win team by and large because of its offensive play. Where do you rank its success in that regard? And then let's let Trev have some time to talk to, Stoner. So maybe keep it short this
time. And are you saying, I didn't quite understand the context of your question. Are you saying Brian Robinson specifically? Or are you saying
offense in general? But it is being led by one Brian Robinson on the ground. In fact, we have seen a bit of a correlation of when he's playing, his team's offense is doing better and winning football games than when he is not playing. But offense as a whole is why we've won 8 games, Stoner. So you didn't like Cliff Kingsbury coming in. He's done fairly well so far this season to date after 13 games being played. So where is the success, and why should Washington Commanders fans feel good about the offense?
Well, I think all those things you said are correct. Brian Robinson's a big part of it. Of course, Jaden Daniels is a big part of it. Coaching is obviously a big part of it with Cliff Kingsbury. But I think what they did, the most important thing that they did in this offseason is they addressed the offensive line. And they got a center for the next 3 years that they're going to be happy with. They got a left guard. They drafted a left tackle who seems to have done everything that you'd hoped he would do, right? We're not talking about him like we talked about Charles Leno last year and all the times that guys were just going past him, right? And Andrew Wiley, for all the criticism that he's gotten, has played pretty well when he's been in there. So I think the offensive line should get really most of the credit. And then what Cliff Kingsbury has done in terms of designing the plays to help the offense be successful is a huge part of it as well. And one of the stats I saw the other day, and I can't quote it specifically because I didn't write it down, was that in this game against Tennessee, Washington had the most yards pre-contact than anybody has had all season long. And it was like 3 point something yards on average before anybody ever touched him. That's offensive line. And it was against a team, Tennessee, who was like 5th in the league in the shortest amount of yards pre-contact defensively. So they did it against a good defensive team. So I think a lot of the credit for what this team has done offensively, obviously, is Jaden, and Terry's having a good year, and B-Rob and all that. But I think it goes to the offensive line and how it's being coached.
I like that.
Trav?
I'm going to piggyback off that and go with the obvious choice, the quarterback. I like the way that Cliff Kingsbury has catered his offense to Jaden Daniels' strengths for the most part. He didn't just throw him to the wolves. He trusted him since day one, and that shows. I'm going back to preseason when Jaden Daniels did that audible, on his own. He might have got a little ridicule about it afterwards, but nothing crazy. Didn't turn away from him. And they just kind of brought him along and let him get comfortable in the early part of the season of being a professional NFL quarterback. And along with the offensive line, along with the running game, I like the way that he's incorporating the running game with 3 different kind of running backs. I saw somebody put up there that we have 2 stars, a quarterback and something else, and he's just working with what he has. And that's exactly what he's doing. He's scheming up things to our players' strengths for once, rather than asking them to step out of the box and do something they're not normally used to doing, or make an offense too complex and too confusing to run. So the way he's incorporating the run with the air raid offense that he was supposedly bringing to us, I think is huge. There's some continuity there. There are some couple questions. It is Cliff Kingsbury, let's be honest. But for the most part, I don't find myself, what are you doing? Why'd you call that play? Why are we running this play at this time? Why are we not handing the ball off? Why are we not throwing the ball down the field? Why is it always 3 and outs? Like, Tress Way became a really good punter for a reason, because we were 3 and out team. Okay. And this year he's been so quiet. People forget he's even on the team, new number and all. And he doesn't have, like the gaudy punt stats that he's accustomed to having. So along with the offensive line, I really think it's the quarterback and the OC. There's a really true connection there. It's not just, hey, we got Sam Howell. He has some talent. Let's go get EB, who's won Super Bowls with an alien named Patrick Mahomes, and see if we can get a Patrick Mahomes here in Washington. It didn't work. They didn't fit. They didn't gel. Cliff and Jaden Daniels gel. That's the reason why we got Cliff, is because he knew Jaden coming out of college. He studied him, this and that, and wanted to work with him. So I do think the offensive coordinator and quarterback relationship is a huge part in the success of our offense.
Yeah, the offensive line play has really improved largely because we're not seeing 55 dropbacks. And we're seeing a QB who knows where and how to get rid of the ball quickly. And we're seeing a scheme that also helps out the offensive line. And it all just kind of works together. And it's fantastic to kind of see all that in motion. And they are being, not to give, take away credit from Bobby, who has done some good things with that offensive line. We're seeing them get out and move in space and use the athleticism that they were drafted for. And that is working to their credit. So there are some good things coming there. It was Locked On Law, by the way, who'd said that Cliff Kingsbury has a QB, 2 weapons, and one of them is a QB. He's doing the best he can. And we talked a little bit about this in the previous section and also last week's episode as well, where we're talking about Noah Brown and Oz and De'Ami Brown and even drafting Mr. 100 himself, Luke McCaffrey. Like, that's not a great wide receiver room.
Right.
And the fact that they're still able to move the ball with that wide receiver room is pretty good. You're talking about a Zach Ertz who, while reliable, cannot get any yards after a catch to save his life. Like, I would love to see his actual yak numbers, because they've probably just barely above the 2 of us or the 3 of us right now. Trev, you might be higher than him. You got some wheels on you. There, to Trev's point, when you're talking about not yelling at the screen for why did you call this kind of play, while we have been upset with some repeated pass patterns, how many screens to John Bates have we seen?
No, what's his name? Curtis Hodges.
Yeah, we haven't had a scream at that when it comes to why why are we putting people in these positions? Because as coaching staff, they're putting people in fantastic positions to be successful. And even some of the flaws that we've seen and the struggles that we've seen have come from the fact that there is a lack of talent. The drops from Noah Brown, the miscues from Oz, and not necessarily a QB who is so wildly off the mark, because he's hitting wide receivers where they can catch the ball and they're not catching it. It's not to say Jaden Daniels is perfect. We've seen some struggles, and certainly that rib injury took a toll on him during those weeks that it was kind of a bigger thing. But this offense has been doing pretty good. And I didn't mean to take away from the defense, gentlemen, because the defense has probably done a reverse of what the offense is doing, where the offense has struggled more so in recent weeks, especially against good teams. The defense is doing the opposite. It struggled against Tampa Bay, and there was a lot of miscues early on, and they've started to have their strength come on. Now, maybe not entirely for full quarters. We've seen a lot of fourth quarter collapses. But what do you make of the defense, Trev, and what Joe Witt Jr. is able to do with, again, talent that is kind of pulling from the middle tier kind of guys?
He's shocking me every week. Like you said, we've been in games where we lost close or we've won big because of the defense. The 3-game losing streak we went on, our defense was playing its butt off, giving our offense chance after chance after chance to either win the game or stay in the game. And the offense blew it. I never would have thought the defense would be like this after free agent signings. I was excited. I thought we'd be a little bit better, but I didn't think we'd be as good as we are now. And we really still aren't really that good. I don't know how we're the top 5 or 6 or 7 in the pass defense. Just crazy to me, but we are. So stats don't lie. But our defense certainly has room to grow, and it'll probably grow in the years coming with free agency and draft. But for this to be put together at the last minute in the offseason, I'm very, very surprised. Bobby Wagner was hyped when he got here, but I thought he was old, but he still got it. And then, we got Noah Igby. He's kind of proved himself. He can play a slot. Mikey Sanistro has overexceeded my expectations from him. I thought his size was going to be a problem in the league, and sometimes it is, but for the most part, he's holding his own. Coaches love him over a guy who's been here for 4 or 5 years in BSJ. So, it's surprising to me. We can only get room to grow. We're getting better as the season goes. But yeah, the past few weeks when we hit that bump in the road, 3-game losing streak, and then winning this last one, our defense has kept us in games when what are we used to in the past? We'll go down, score some points, come back. Defense is on the field for 10 minutes straight and allows points, no turnovers. Our defense is gassed. And that's when we had Chase Youngs, the Montez Sweats, the Kendall Fullers, the John Bostics, the Jonathan Allens, he's still here, but he's hurt. And now we're relying on practice day squads to step up, and they're doing a really good job. So credit to Joe Witt, first time being a D coordinator. And he's doing a heck of a job with the guys he has. Now we're going to get a taste of Marshawn Latimore coming up. We'll see what it's like to have a superstar guy back there on this defense. And I'm just excited for what the future brings for this defense, because I think once we know the kind of style Joe Witt wants to play, now we can really go get these guys to come fit that style rather than kind of shooting in the dark to see maybe this could fit, maybe this could fit, maybe this could fit. So overall, I'm really pleased. Yeah, Dante Fowler, he's coming back alive with his career too, because, it's just kudos to Joe Witt Jr. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of credit that goes to coaching. A lot of credit goes to the front office for bringing in a lot of different guys. Who are the holdovers that are really starting? You got like Quinn, right? BSJ, and then the guys on, the 2 guys on Payne and Allen.
Yeah,
that's basically it. So they've turned over the roster quite a bit. Now they're still having a little trouble stopping the run.
Yeah,
but still, from what we saw last year and what we saw in the first 2 games of the year, let's not forget, after Tampa and Cincinnati, we thought that this defense was, again, the worst defense in the history of football. I remember seeing plenty of that, and we probably said it here as well. But they figured it out, and they're still getting better as the season has gone on as well. You can still see it getting better. They're amazing against Will Levis and Daniel Jones and
my gosh, here we go.
Andy Dalton, and
they held Russell Wilson pretty well until the fourth quarter. You know,
and Lamar was
didn't explode to the fourth quarter.
I'm just playing a little bit with that, but they have done. They've made a huge difference, and I think you mentioned it just a little bit, Trev, but we can't underestimate what the offense is doing in terms of time of possession and holding on to the ball, allowing the defense to rest. Mm-hmm. We talked about it all last year about they're just out there way too much. The offense needs to help them by keeping them off the field, and this offense is doing it. I don't know where they are in time of possession, but I'm guessing top 5 in the league, and that helps the defense.
Well, one of the reasons they're in their 5 losses, Stoner, to your point, they lost the possession battle.
Possession, yeah. I think there's one game where actually they won that they lost the time of possession.
Chicago.
Yeah, but still, the point is, if you hold on to the ball longer, the defense doesn't have a chance to go out there and fail as much. Mm-hmm. And they've done that, but they've done it with coaching. They've done it with new players. They've done it with scheme, and they've done it with just better players.
I have failed as a host here. Matt, earlier, we appreciate it.
Hey.
With 1999 donation here, appreciate you, Matt, jumping in the chat. You've been very active commenting on with the other people there. And Mike's comment here for $5. Appreciate you too, Mike. What team would you like to see in the first round of the playoffs versus Washington? Is there a team that you guys can think of, Mike is wondering, that you would be okay facing, currently slated to face off against the Philadelphia Eagles?
Yeah.
Is there a team you would like to see?
Anybody but Detroit and Philly.
That's fair.
Really, once you get past 1 and 2, 3 and 4 can be got. You're talking about the NFC South winner or the NFC West winner. Both of those two right now are hovering around 500.
Yep.
And I mean, I probably would prefer to go to the South.
Yeah.
And look at either the Falcons again, who you would have just played, or Tampa Bay would be maybe a little bit rougher, but I think that's still a flawed team. That would be probably an easier get than trying to go to the Rams, which is a cross-country visit. Arizona cross country. Like, I mean, you're talking time zone differences and everything. I'd rather stick with the South. So who if that's the case, but you need Green Bay to lose, which they're playing Detroit on Thursday Night Football. You never know. They've got a tough road ahead of them. And so that is what we've got going on there. We're going to talk more about the future going up. Now, I've kind of dragged things a little bit, vamping just a little bit, as we say in the business, because we are bringing on one legendary DC sports analyst here, and that is one wonderful EB, Eric Bickel from the Junkies. We appreciate you coming on with us here, Eric, and talking about the bye week so far for the Washington Commanders. Now, Stoner, you might have missed it, has been talking fairly Debbie Downer. 8-5 Washington Commanders. But where are you feeling as probably the resident Washington Commanders fan with the Junkies? How are you feeling about the Commanders this season?
Well, first of all, hi guys. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
What's up, BB?
It's my pleasure. Yeah, great to see you guys. I don't know why. I would first like to hear why Stoner's down, honestly. Like what? I mean, I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, I mean, Nathan's really trying hard to put me, as the bad guy here. I'm not down on them. I'm just putting in context that their 8 wins are all against terrible teams. Their best win is Arizona, who's 6-6. So I just try to put it in context to say that this team may not be as good as we think they are, but that doesn't mean that the entire season is not overall, and I do this in quotes, a success.
Totally. And that's kind of how I look at it. And, I'm just so enamored and I've just fallen in love with Jaden and what he does. Everything about the kid on and off the field. I mean, he's just amazing. I just love him. I mean, he's way better than I thought. Way better. And so he just gives me hope for the future that all this is gravy. I mean, I will admit I'm weird. I'll admit that. But I'm not even like looking ahead that much. I don't really look at the standings. Like, I just want us to take care of business and play well and score points, be exciting again. The rest of it's going to take care of itself because, I kind of determined early on. First of all, nobody here picked them to win the Super Bowl, right? Nobody picked them to contend for a Super Bowl. In fact, few of us picked them to maybe squeak into the playoffs. I think I had them at 9-8, crossing my fingers they'd get into the playoffs, right? And that was pretty optimistic. So this is like all gravy. I love it. When we play some teams, the more elite teams, I don't think we measure up pound for pound. That's okay. It's the first run at this. We got our guy. Like, that's the most important thing. And I talk, and I kind of pick at our producer, Drabby, about this all the time. He's like, yeah, he's pretty good. I mean, pretty good. What are you talking about? This kid can do it all. Like, and I really believe that. And, I think what's happened so far is kind of what those of us that were optimistic about it, were like, wow, this kid's kind of got everything. You just gotta keep him upright. He seems like a smallerish guy, and he puts himself out there. His nickname by one analyst in college, I've talked about him a bunch of times, was Johnny Knoxville. All those car crash collisions he was taking. Right. I mean, I think it's a great nickname, but he's done a better job of that. And so I'm just like thrilled. And like early on, I was like, I'm not one of these guys like the HGTC guys where like I just pick us every week. I can't do it. I'm not wired that way. I have to pick who I think is going to win. I root for my team every week, but I'm not going to pick my team every week. Like, I just don't think that that's realistic. So like I picked us to lose to the Ravens, of course. Right. I picked this. I think I picked this. I don't even know. I probably picked the Steelers. I'm 99% sure I picked I'm like 11-2, I think, picking the team this year, right? I mean, when we're playing the better teams, I'm probably going to pick them right now. But that's okay.
Yeah.
We're
freaking
scoring 30 points a game when we're moving. So, I'm just thrilled. I'm overall thrilled. I thought the defense was historically awful for about the first 8-12 quarters. And they've kind of turned it around. They're not great. Believe me, they're not great.
Yeah.
But, right. They're getting some stops. They're getting some turnovers. I think they kind of found their swagger again a little bit offensively. So personally, I don't care what happens. Just be productive on offense, score points, keep Jaden healthy, let Jaden cook. Yeah. And I'm excited because the future's bright.
One of the things I'm going to kind of force you to look into the future a little bit here, but one of the things that we went back and forth on is that this team could finish 10-7, right? And be the team that it is. And then if you look to next year, and I don't know if you have looked into it, but they play the NFC North, which is Detroit.
I haven't looked into it yet.
Right?
My God.
Right. And then they play the AFC West, which is the Chiefs and the Chargers in Denver, right? They're up and coming, right? They could go 8-9 next year and actually be a better team.
Maybe, but you're getting crazy. You're getting crazy.
Thank you.
Just getting a little crazy. Slow down. You don't even know what they're going to do in free agency in the draft. We could be a totally different, more dominant team. Sure, this exact same team with the 100-year-old linebacker and some of these other pieces. Sure, but we're gonna address these things.
Right.
We're gonna let Adam cook.
So are the other teams, though, Eric. So are the other teams.
Oh my gosh!
Of course, yeah, of course,
yeah.
But I just have faith in the structure. Mm-hmm. I think that the young guys are gonna get better. I actually love Ben Sinnott, and he's done nothing. Like he's done nothing.
He blocked well on a Jaden Daniels 20-yard touchdown run. He blocked superbly out.
No, but I think he can catch the ball and run over guys. I think Luke McCaffrey, I mean, everybody sees that talent. Like that kid's underutilized. They'll figure that out. I mean, Terry, man, I think sometimes I just don't appreciate him enough. I've said 100 times, I wish he'd marry one of my daughters. Like, I want him in my family. I want him at my dinner table. I want to break bread with him. I love him. But I didn't know that the team fed off his energy quite the way it does. It really does. So, I mean, listen, I think we had a guest on. I know Stoner listens to the pod. Like, we had a guest on that said, it's right before we played the Eagles. Like, how many of your guys on offense would start for the Eagles? Right? Pretty hard to come up with more than one or two. And so but that's fine. That's fine. This is year one, right? So we still got a long ways to go. Keep your expectations realistic. I thought they did a remarkable job in the offseason with who they brought in. Like the leadership of Wagner and Ertz, and they can't stop talking about it. Right. And I think it's really been impactful. And slowly those guys are setting the tone. I think a lot of people it's very cool right now to make fun of the word culture. And I could tell you, being around sports my whole life, culture is massive. It's massive. It's everything. Unless you're like the Cowboys, the 90s, and everyone's doing blow in the White House, and you got all that talent. But by and large, they probably have pretty good culture, to be honest with you. Different kind of culture, but they probably have a pretty good one. But culture is so important. And I think we've got, for the first time in a long time, great culture along with everything else. So I'm very optimistic. I'm not looking down the road that we already play the Chiefs next year. Like, I don't care.
Okay. Stoner's already written us off.
Crazy.
We're 8-9. I'm not going to let him back down from that either when we do our season predictions next year. 8-9, Stoner. You're written in.
You know what?
Permanent.
Listen, I got a lot of angst. I got a lot of anxiety. He needs some Zoloft. That's crazy. That's crazy.
So, EV, I know you don't look far down the road, but we got 4 games left after the bye. You mentioned you just hope we take care of business. Do you think we take care of business with these next 4 games? How do you see them working out based on what
I think it's obviously it's been hard to I mean, actually, and that I think honestly that you look at it's documented. I think I'm 11-2 picking us. So since I am now an expert, I would say I mean, I like us against New Orleans. I just briefly looked at what New Orleans has done. Nothing impressive this year, really. I mean, I'm still scared of Philly. I can't pick us against Philly. Do I think we could beat Philly? Of course. But if you put a gun to my head, I'm going to pick Philly. I'm not stupid. I think Atlanta hasn't really done much this year. Kirk's reeling a little bit. I mean, he's not as bad as he played last week. But so I would pick us against them. And I'm just dumb enough to pick us against Dallas again because that game is just one of those games that got out of hand. And I said this on the show. That game was absurd. It was just the tail. I mean, everybody knows, right? Once we finally were about to tie it up or whatever before, like I had no problem with going for the extra point there because I was like, all right, you know what? Finally, all is right in the world. We tied up this terrible team. We're just going to go kick their ass in overtime. Kick that extra point. No problem. No problem. And I know the kicker had struggled a little bit, but we're going to kick that extra point. We're going to just, everything's going to be normal again, and we'll just beat their ass in overtime, and we'll say, hey, you know what, close call. That kind of sucked, but move on. So I had no problem with that. But the moral to that is I still think we could beat Dallas. Like, I think we're a better football team than Dallas. Now, Micah Parsons, and I said it all week, that's where I might be with Stoner a little bit. Like, he's a game wrecker. Like, he's unbelievable. So, you got to count for him. You can't let him kind of get off the way he did. But long answer, I would pick us to go 3-1 down the stretch.
Yeah, same.
I don't know. I don't even know where that gets us, but that's what I would pick.
Yeah, it's a pretty darn good record, especially with the team that has seen 60% turnover. We've talked about how Ron Rivera has just completely messed up this team after 4 years with draft whiffs and free agency whiffs. Now, that's the past. Let's talk a little bit more recency and how the play is going here, Eric. Who, outside of Jaden Daniels, who we all meant is way better than even what we expected, and we expected high things from him. Who has been your favorite draft pick?
All right, I'm 54 years old. just remind me, like, okay, so obviously Sinnott,
So Johnny
McCaffrey,
Newton, Sinnott, Mike Sanistrell, Luke McCaffrey,
go ahead. Everyone's gonna say Sanistrell. I think like he's been pretty friggin' impressive.
Brandon Coleman.
Brandon Coleman. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Brandon Coleman, because we're not talking about him, right? Because we talked a lot about Charles Leno last year because of what Kayvon Thibodeau was doing to him, all these guys, but we're not talking about Brandon Coleman because nobody's.
I would say, yeah, with Coleman, and this pretty much goes with all offensive linemen. I know what I don't know, and I just don't know how to evaluate offensive linemen unless they're just getting roasted. You know what I mean? So I just don't. I don't know, but yeah, I think what you say makes sense to me, Stoner. He's kind of stepped in, and yeah, we're not harping on him like we were Wiley or So I think that's probably fair. Probably wouldn't come to my top of mind. I'd probably take those guys for granted a little bit. But I would say Sandstrom probably at first. Like if you remember in week 1, he didn't really pop.
Right.
But he's gotten comfortable and better and better and better. And I just see him more aggressive. And it's funny, B. Mitch said, I don't know if he said this on air, he might have, that like, I think he said this on air, but when he, went out there in training camp, whatever, this kid's a rookie and everybody was around him. Like he was like a leader already as a rookie. He just has that charismatic personality that everybody was drawn to. And I don't think that Jaden's the same way. I think he has charisma and everything, but I just think he's just more cool. But yeah, I would say outside of Jaden, I would say Sandstrom. I mean, that guy, come on, big time pedigree, played receiver before he moved to DB at Michigan, right? I mean, I'm big on that big pedigree stuff. Nothing's going to phase him.
Yeah, that picture from the back of the end zone of him defending the pass against the Tennessee Titan player is just absolutely epic. We posted a meme version of it with Jaden Daniels stopping Pepsi Rookie of the Week for honors against Bo Nix. But I mean, yeah, he's been very, very good. And as Doug mentions to us, and we will learn to say his name correctly, but it is Sanristil, not Sanistrill, as
Sanristil.
Sanristil. Yeah,
Sanristil. I'll never probably get that, but I'll try.
Yeah. Don't worry. Trev down there, man, now I'm going to butcher it, but he just calls Iggy a whole bunch of different names down there.
Banana Hugh or something like that.
Banana.
Yeah, I can't even.
Yeah. So that was your favorite pick was Mikey, and I think that's like going to be kind of a consensus, especially he had a good last game against the Tennessee Titans there. What has, not to steal a question from Stoner, but what has been your favorite game to watch this season?
Oh man, you guys are pushing my memory here. Hold on, I got to look at the.
Yeah, I won't call you out and say you forgot that you were going to be on with us tonight until I had to remind you. So. Doesn't have the greatest memory.
No, I know, but I don't. Yeah, I just, I live by the moment here. I don't know. Jesus. All right. So I didn't like the Bucks game.
That's Cincy game.
You know what? Cincy, I loved. Who didn't love that? Didn't love the Ravens game. Didn't love the Bears game, although we all love the ending. I think it's pretty obvious. For me, it's probably Cincy.
Yeah.
At first glance, I don't know. You guys agree?
Yeah.
A lot of people going with that Cincy game. I think what was great about that was the lights were on, right? It was a primetime game. Jaden Daniels looked every bit the part, and he was just a couple of games into the season at this point, and he just had everybody raving about him. And it was obvious he was the best player on the field, and Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are on the field, and yet Jaden Daniels is outshining both of them. So that's a good game to pick for this.
The Titans game was unbelievably fun, but it actually got boring. Like we went so quick. I was like practicing putting during it. I was like, this is a snoozer.
Yeah, I agree. It wasn't too about it.
It's not Zoloft, but I got a little something to calm me down a little bit here for the
little orange juice, Stoner.
Yeah.
All right. There you go.
So what would you say so far this year has been your biggest surprise that you were absolutely not expecting from this team?
God, I feel like it's cheating if I ask you guys to prompt me. I would say the improvement of the defense. I would say the offensive line. I gotta kind of lock in here. right?
Well, what about this? I don't know if you were a Dan Quinn guy. Were you surprised? Are you surprised of kind of how much you've fallen in love with Dan Quinn and his leadership and coaching style?
Here's what I say. I was for Dan Quinn. I supported it because I knew he was a football guy. I liked what he did with Dallas and Seattle and everything. I wasn't necessarily a Ben Johnson guy, just because I heard that guy talk one time and I was like, this guy sounds like a weasel. I like, not in a bad way, but I'm like, how's that guy going to command a room? I don't know. He just didn't seem to have the balls for me. And so Quinn has that. The one thing I would say about Quinn, it kind of irks me a little bit, and it's just because I'm a jerk. But it's just a little too cheesy, maybe for my taste. Like, it's a little cheesy, all the shtick. All right, we're going to rock now. You know, I don't know. It's just a little I know people won't like me for saying that. I'm sorry. But I'm pro him because I think, I just think he's a quality football guy. I think he lives and breathes it. I think he's real. I don't think he's fake. That might be a little fake, but I think he loves it and lives it and breathes it. And I think Ron would just show up, go to the car wash, get his car detailed. You know what I mean? I think Ron was just cashing in checks, and I just, God, what an awful taste in my mouth that was. You know what I mean? So I like Quinn. And obviously the guys respond to him and everything. But I do think that, honestly, big picture, biggest surprise, I thought the offensive line was going to be a real issue. And I think you have to say, outside of maybe, what was it, the Cowboy game? I guess it was the Cowboy game where I thought Jaden was under a lot of duress with Mike and all those guys. I mean, I think they've done a pretty darn good job, especially obviously run blocking. I mean, I think Brian Robinson's awesome. We have him on the show all the time. And I actually said, again, here's a back patting, that I thought Brian Robinson in training camp, or when we saw him running, I was like, man, he looks poised to have a big year. He looks a little quicker, a little more burst. I didn't really see it this year. I saw it, right? I was like, oh, this is why everybody likes him. I see that extra little get up in him. And I think he's benefited from the offensive line. Are you kidding? On Sunday, I mean, there were some huge holes. I think Stoner could have ran through some of those.
I could,
to be honest.
Rodriguez looked pretty darn good, that's for certain.
Yeah, and Rodriguez looked good. All the boys look good back there. So I'd say offensive line, and then just sort of the in-season improvement of the defense to be palatable, to be workable. They're not great. The back end's not great. We all know that. I don't think we pressure as much as we could. But I mean, are you kidding? The defense improvement, I think Frankie Louver was all over the field on Sunday, from play one.
Yeah.
Jeremy Chin
Fowler's
flying
been
around.
a revelation, right? Fowler, so I don't know.
I'm gonna stay on defense for you, EB. Do you think Marshawn Latimore coming back after the bye, it's been rumored that it's going to happen, do you think that will have an immediate impact on this defense this year, or are we going to see more of an immediate impact next season?
I mean, you guys probably got to give him a little grace. Probably might be a little rusty, not having played in a month or so. But I think he will have an impact. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I think now all of a sudden St. Juice doesn't have to take the top guy as much, right? By the way, I also think St. Juice is better than people think because he's always there. He just has the worst ball awareness in the history of mankind.
Turn your head around, kid.
But he's often there. He's there. Now, he does get run by, of course, but oftentimes he is there and just doesn't make a play on the ball. There's a remarkable stat that my buddy Pete Haley sent me that, and I think you guys know this, but I think in college, in 30 games in college, he had 0 interceptions, and in the pros, he's had 40 games, he has 1 interception. So in 70 games as a DB, he's got 1 interception. What you got to have a tip ball or two that you know what I mean? Some
even Forbes has got more than that.
Yeah, Forbes. Yeah. So, by the way, they showed there's video. I retweeted it of Manny working out today with the Rams. And he's wearing shorts and those little twig legs. It's the most shocking thing you've ever seen. I mean, they're literally twigs.
Remember
I can't believe
he said he had gained 8 pounds or whatever.
It's not possible. I mean, honestly, it looks like someone like on the cover of like a magazine where everyone's like sick, like there's there's starvation or something. Like it's not good. I root for him though. I'm not trying to be mean. It's just kind of shocking. It's just shocking.
Yeah, very, very slight frame. Not slight of frame, however, is Jonathan Allen. I know he used to join you guys as well. Armand is asking, is Jonathan Allen gone after this season? What do you think, Eric?
I mean, I certainly have no insight on that. I think that you could easily make a case for it, right? Because I think you guys would know his contract better than me. Was he have one more year on the deal? I think is that right?
That is correct.
It's not guaranteed, isn't that right? He's going to want more guaranteed money. I think he'd be a piece that other people would want. So I think I don't know that you could say there's been a dramatic drop off with John out there, and that's not a shot at John. It's just like the other guys are kind of doing okay. I don't know. So I think he could be a piece that could, and I think he would never say it publicly, and he hasn't said it to me privately, but I would think he'd probably be open to it if there was an opportunity for him to maybe go to another like winning team, and I think maybe we could get some pieces. So I would think he might be a prime candidate to move on. It might be beneficial to everybody. Because I still think he's a tank. Teams are going to want him if you put him out there. Sure. So if we get a few pieces and, maybe that's a position. Look, I think they're about to cut Mathis.
There's a good chance. Fedarian Mathis is on watch. That's for certain.
Yeah. So I think we have some depth there. I think Johnny Newton's going to be a superstar probably. They're going to be pretty good. Maybe I won't say super. Maybe superstars is a stretch, but I think he's going to be pretty good.
Yeah. I just watched that video of Forbes working out with the Rams. Oh my God. Those legs they're not legs.
There's literally no muscle there. And when he's standing straight, he has no, that muscle like that my kids have, like soccer players have, like over your knees. He doesn't have any of that. It's not there.
It's crazy.
And then I just don't even know how he don't even look that quick coming in and out of his breaks. It's like wild.
No.
I don't get it.
I do
learn from him. I want to say I want all these guys to succeed and make all the money. I'm never jealous. Maybe quietly, but I always want them to do it. Like I root for him. Like go get it.
I think he was drafted in a bad situation. The coaching last year didn't help, and this year there's just a lot of things that didn't go his way. So it's definitely a situation where it's not a guy who spurned the team and you're just like, you go, sit on a rock. This is a kid who is just trying to make it in the league and play and
barely got a chance, honestly. Barely got a chance.
So
I was listening to one of the arguments that you guys had, you guys versus Cakes about the kicker, and something you should bring up with them next time about the kicker, because, and these guys might not know, but Cakes is like cut Zane Gonzalez, and I think Trev is in that same boat. Cut him today. Go pick somebody off the street is better than him. Before he missed that 46-yarder, he had hit 20 field goals in a row. Now, it's over the course of a couple of seasons, but he had 20 in a row. So it's not like he was spotty and at all these other places as well. He had been kicking very well.
And he'd only been with us for a few games, but prior to that, I think he had made everything. Maybe he had missed Seibert had just missed one and then missed a bunch. But now I was against it when the moment they announced it, I was against it. When they moved the extra point back, and because I thought all you're doing now is you're just injecting more chance into these games. Yeah. Because I'm sorry, when we score a touchdown, I kind of think it's 7. Like it's just all right, 7. We took it to the house, we got 7. Yeah. Now. We got like 6 3/4 or something, because now you've injected a certain number of, like, I don't care how good, let me look at Justin Tucker, but I don't care how good you are as a kicker. You now got more chance because they're going to miss more the further back. So that's a long way of saying, like, I think he had 10 extra points. I don't count those as like, oh, that doesn't mean anything. No. Extra points are a little trickier than people think. Sure, they make them at 90% versus 98%. but it just there's a lot more chance involved now with those. So as far as I'm concerned, he made 10 33-yarders. He made a couple others. And then, he pushed 2 long ones. I mean, I know people make long kicks now and legs are stronger than ever, but it wasn't like he was lacking leg strength. He just kind of pushed it a little bit, technique off a little. I wouldn't just throw – I just think it's hard to find kickers. And he's got 4 or 5 years in the league. He had been perfect prior to that. Now, if he goes out next week after the bye and he misses 1 or 2 on turf, 40-yarders, maybe we got to find somebody else. Yeah, but I expect him to be, honestly, and I'll say this at the risk of jinxing it. Sorry, I expect him to be perfect next week. He's going to have perfect conditions. He's going to be indoors. I mean, he should be fine unless, maybe he can push one again, but I think he'll be pretty good. I mean, you also got to remember, too, that's part of the equation. Like, that field sucks. And it's gotten a little bit better, but that's a hard field to kick on. And, you get the elements and everything else. So I give him a little grace, certainly for the 52-yarder. And obviously we expect guys to make 46-yarders at a pretty high clip. All right, he missed it. I think he deserves another week. I'm not keeping him forever, but I think he deserves another week. But if they cut him and get somebody else who, all right, fine. Pressure's on. Yeah.
To your point on kickers being hard to find, Stoner over here still stands after Hopkins after all these years. So constantly brings him up as the fact that we got rid of an okay kicker and haven't been able to replace him. Well,
I think he's right. I actually think the media
head's expanding right now.
I actually think we cut him because we kind of badmouthed them on air and people calling in. And I think Ron was reactive. I think Ron cut a good kicker. Because the media, fans were complaining about kickers.
Yeah, always need a scapegoat. You always need a scapegoat. Well, maybe not an 8-5 season. Things going Washington's way. Things going 106.7 fans the way. And I know a lot of people give you and the Junkies some trash and whatnot because they don't feel like you necessarily support the team. I know you are a diehard Washington fan, and you guys tell us all the time, and you tell people all the time, you guys do better when the team does better. It's got to be 100%. Feel good out there for 106.7 The Fan.
It is. It's a great time, but my God, the Wizards are going to be so bad this year. I'm not sure that there's much hope even still for the Nats yet. Doesn't seem like they've been super active, so we might have another torturous year there. The Caps are a bright spot till Cake's jinxed Ovi, but I think he's coming back soon. So the Caps might have something. I think the Caps are the real deal. It's a great time. Just honestly, we just need more people to listen on the radio because everyone's just still, you'd be shocked. Not everyone's going to work anymore. People, it's like they work from home 3/5 of the time and they sit there and they watch us on Monumental, which is cool, but it doesn't really pay me that much.
Right.
So I need you
to pay you anything, does it?
No, I do. I get money there, but I just need I need people to listen to radio again. I need old school people. I need those old schools. Thank God for the podcast though, and I'll give credit to CK. He had the foresight, and we started. He knows better than me, but probably about 2006, we started podcasting our show. So because of that, we have a relatively massive base that check it out every day. And so that's great for us. But, man, I wish people would get in their cars and listen to the radio again. Go back to work, people. It sucks being at home all day.
How about we just tune into the radio from home? Is that acceptable?
All right. I guess. I
want to go happy medium there, perhaps. Well, we do appreciate you, EB, coming on here to ref the district, talking these Washington Commanders 8-5. We do appreciate you. And
thank you, boys. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right, everybody, you heard them. You got to tune in 106.7 The Fan on the radio first and the pod afterwards after that. Appreciate you again, EB. Have a great night. When we come back, gentlemen, we will be talking about the rest of the season. Eric Bickel there, EB from the Junkies, thinks we can win 11 games. We'll make our season predictions as well. And we are here for the cool down in episode 202. And I will say this is going to be a quick one, trying to keep us under 2 hours here. So we're going to move things a little bit steady and fast as things are concerned. First thing off the bat, we did a poll on our Ref the District Twitter page, and it came out with a lot of people wondering why we didn't put 12 wins in the poll, and there was only 4 options, and the 4 options we kept were 8 wins, 9 wins, 10 wins, or 11 wins. 52% ended up picking out 10 wins. EB says we can make it to 11.
Yeah.
List out the Saints, Falcons, and Cowboys as the victories. Of course, the Eagles being the one loss in that. 4 games left, gentlemen, 8 wins currently. Trev, where do you think we win, and where do you think we lose?
We win against the Saints next week. Marshawn Latimore comes back. Whew, it's going to be great. Popcorn, get your popcorn ready. Falcons, we're going to beat Kirk Cousins. They're winning their division with 6 wins currently, if that says anything. Dallas, we should be 9-4. That game was a fluke. I think we were just super tired. I don't know, but we can beat Dallas for sure. And the way Philly's playing right now, I'm just being honest. I don't think we can beat Philly. I think we can hang like we did the first game, 3 quarters, but 3-1, 11 wins, 6 losses, going to the playoffs is a 60.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. New Orleans stinks. Dallas stinks. Atlanta stinks. We're better than those 3 teams. We're not better than Philly. So if we do what we're supposed to do, and what we've done all year, other than 1 game against Dallas, you're going to beat the teams that you're better than, and you're going to lose to the team that's better than you. They pretty much kept it that way the whole year, and they're going to keep doing that. They're going to go 11-6. They're going to end up with the 6th seed, and they're going to go and play probably, I think they're going to play, my prediction is they're going to play Seattle, 3 seed.
Yeah, I do think the West is better in a better position, and that makes sense that they'd be the 3 seed over the South's division leader there. Yeah, it's hard not to predict 3 wins in this regard, and I don't think 4 wins is out of the realm of possibility. I do think that they can potentially play better against Philadelphia than they did this last time. But when you're talking about a team that didn't put away a Dallas team that they should have put away, and a Falcons team that is Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde.
Sure.
There's times where Kirk Cousins is throwing 4 picks, but then there's the games where he's playing well, and they do have offensive weapons, and they are a team that can win football games. Now, that one is a home game.
Yeah.
So at least that one bodes well. New Orleans, I just don't know. You're talking about Carr, who I'm historically down on, but he is a decent quarterback. You know, he's not great. In fact, I think I saw a crazy stat where it's him and his brother with the most losses in X amount of seasons. But I mean, he can still sling it, and this defense can be susceptible to that. So I think it's not going to be an easy 3 wins, but I do think Washington gets to 11 wins for the first time since their Super Bowl winning season, which is crazy to think that it's been that long.
Years.
Jaden Daniels, kind of in the future, looking in your crystal ball, we know that he's going to continue winning Pepsi Rookie of the Week, mainly because we're the ones voting for him. So I mean, he has that going for him. Does he finish out the season, though, as the offensive rookie of the year? A lot of talk right now about Bo Nix gaining ground, especially after several good weeks and a winning football team out there in Denver.
Bo picks.
I think Jaden Daniels. Yeah. Bo Nix is on a hot streak right now. He's going to hit reality soon. Jaden Daniels. And I think also comes down for real strength of schedule. I think Jaden Daniels has the better chance of getting that because we play the Saints, the Falcons, and the Cowboys 3 out of 4 last games of the season. Broncos probably set to play the Chiefs again. They probably set to play a couple more divisional games, and division is a hard division like ours, but it's harder than ours this year. So, yeah, I think this year Jaden Daniels comes out with Offensive Rookie of the Year, narrowly escaping Bo Nix just because of strength of schedule.
They've got the Colts, Chargers, Bengals, and Chiefs.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, there are 3 games. Bengals, you can't ever sleep on. I know they're bad, but they still got Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase.
Absolutely.
Are football gods this year because they have football gods on their sides. And then you said Chargers. Their defense is okay. Jim Harbaugh's not going to lay down. And the Colts, any given Sunday, whatever. But yeah, our schedule's way easier, better chance for Jaden Daniels to go get those stats.
I do agree with P&W Trout Slayer here that JD5 is not worried about the award. He's focused on winning, which is great, and which is one of the things that makes him even better than what we would have thought about. Now, this guy is somebody who did bet Malik Neighbors $10,000 that he would win Offensive Rookie of the Year over Neighbors. I think that this race is really coming down to, and there's some people who are saying Brock Bowers is having like a legendary tight end season. He's on a 2-win team currently. That's not good enough. And I know it's a tight end who can't necessarily impact the field of play a lot in the wins and loss records, but you're just not going to necessarily see it unless you're putting that much, not just for your position, but for like you're talking, all positions just above and away, kind of similar to MVP. It's going to go to a QB. Jaden Daniels at one point was like 5th in a lot of people's MVP race. Now I think he would have to play lights out and beat Philadelphia to get back in that conversation. Yeah. But I think Offensive Rookie of the Year is a lock for him. This feels a bit similar to the WNBA's Rookie of the Year award, where it was Caitlin Clark. Yeah. It was always going to be Caitlin Clark.
Right.
But Angel Reese was getting some people, worked up, and people wanted the competition. It's better for social media. It's better for talk shows to have something to talk about, because you can't just keep talking about how great one athlete is. You have to be able to talk about everybody. And then you have Joe Buck, who doesn't even consider Jaden Daniels a rookie. Doubled down on it. That was insane.
Don't forget, Aikman agreed with him. So Aikman doesn't get out of this.
Yeah, Aikman doesn't get a pass. Sorry, Armand. By the way, I didn't pop your thing up here, but with the $5 super donation. But Armand did ask us what the record projections were. So it looks like we're all on 3 wins there when it comes to that. One thing that I wanted to talk about, because it is something fairly recent and it deals with the future. Brock had asked if we talked about the RFK Stadium passing the Senate as they did on Fox 5. Lots of movements. Where do you guys see Washington playing in the future?
I don't know, because apparently it's something involved with some aircraft that's going to be involved with this.
Maryland is trying to work a deal right now, for those who might not be aware, and getting one of the National Guard air squadrons, the fighter squadrons that the National Guard has. If RFK is going to be the site, Maryland still has its hand out saying, hey, we won't fight you if you give us a little something, something.
That's how politics work, man.
Where I'm at,
room where it happened for those Hamilton fans. It's happening behind closed doors.
It's not going to be here for another 5 or 6 years anyway.
Yeah.
And guys, to be honest, since we're winning football games, I don't really care where the stadium is right now. And it's crazy. That's what winning does to you. I don't care what we look like. I don't care what we sound like. I don't care.
Don't care about the name. Keep bringing those flags. Those flags were fantastic. Yeah, I think people are coming around on the black uniforms after a couple victories in them. And it is funny. We didn't really see a lot of the name chatter until the 3-game losing streak. And then all of a sudden it was, they're going to go back to the Redskins. Yeah. And Washington needs to keep winning games. And if they win games, things will continue going.
Point of clarification real quick, though. It did not pass the Senate.
Yeah.
It passed the Senate committee, which means that they're going to put it on a bill somewhere to get passed by the Senate. But it didn't go through the full Senate. Just got it out of committee is all.
Sure.
Just want to
it's a step in the right direction. There's some closed door things going. We haven't even mentioned that a new president has been hired.
I was going to say, we can let Mark Klaus handle that because he's the new president. Good old soup, man. Good old Campbell's soup coming to Washington. So we'll let him handle it. Shout out Mark Klaus one time.
So, absolutely. Shout out to all those in the chat here. We had Scooby, Brock, Rochelle coming in late, Gus, Doug, who taught us how to say San Ristil for our rookie standout cornerback, and Stoner trying to give himself props there. Uptown Dre, JG, Locked on Law, Matt. We, of course, had some super chats coming in from Matt, Mike, and Armand. We appreciate everybody coming in here, making this fun. We will be live again next week, as we are live every week on Facebook and YouTube at 7:30 Eastern. For that, we will have our preview for the New Orleans Saints. And, of course, you can catch that separately on Friday. If you missed Eric Bickel, don't worry, we're going to have that section for you coming out later this week as well. I'm Nathan. That's the Stoner. That's Trev. We're brought to you by Don't Sleep Energy and Bet Online. And until next time,
success.
Be a fan.